Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We've got a ton going on here at Spirit Blade Productions and Christian Geek Central, including our in-depth Bible study for geeks, movie, game, and other entertainment reviews or commentary, live streams, Christian geek news, original audio dramas, and tons more. And on top of all that, you can become a Spirit Blade insider with an influential voice and get access to exclusive content and rewards. It's your involvement as a patron that will keep all of this going and growing, so I want to thank you for your consideration in that. For more information, please check out our Patreon page through the link below at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions. Thanks for listening. Well, my editing skills are crap, but can the same thing be said about Monsters of Man? Stick around and find out. Hey, I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is my uncut review of Monsters of Man. The synopsis on IMDb reads, a robotics company teams up with a corrupt CIA agent undergoing an illegal, unsanctioned military operation. Dropping 4 prototype robots into a suspected drug manufacturing camp in the Golden Triangle that no one will miss, the mission is to prove the robotics company is worthy of winning a lucrative military contract. 6 doctors on a good cause witness the brutal slaughter of an innocent village and are forced into a deadly game of cat and mouse as they become the new targets. Alright, so what is this animal? Sci-fi action thriller. I would almost say horror, because there are some moments that when these robots are killing people that are kind of they play out like horror movie moments, but most of it I would describe as sci-fi action with like suspense and stuff. So sci-fi action thriller is where I would probably land describing this thing. The dialogue in early scenes is very functional. It's very practical, very expositional, not in an irritating way, but in a way that's just like, okay, this isn't how people talk. They're just giving us information about what's happening, what's going on. You know, the characters are not the focus, I don't think, in the script. But by the end of the movie, I did care about at least 2 of the characters. And I think that's probably a blend of the intensity that was being created by the filmmaking in general, some of the performances, and then there were some scripting elements introduced as the movie went on that helped me care about, gave some info about the background of a few characters that helped me to care about them some more. After the first 30 minutes, the remaining 90 minutes remains pretty tense, as this small group of civilians led by a retired Navy SEAL are struggling to just barely stay ahead of the robots that are hunting them. So the first 30 minutes, not a lot of setup, not really captivating, but like from that point on, it really like kind of kicks into I don't want to say I was at the edge of my seat the whole thing. I don't want to overinflate what this experience was for me, but I was certainly engaged from the 31-minute mark on till the end of the movie. It's got like some Ghost Recon Breakpoint vibes in terms of the setting. It's this near future, light sci-fi, well, heavy sci-fi, depending on, what you think of robotics and what's possible in the near future. Military action type of stuff in a lush jungle type of environment. As I said, it does have some horror elements. The robots mercilessly kill humans, including children. Now, the deaths of the children aren't focused on with the same kind of horror elements, the gore and the real intensity and the prolonged nature of the adult deaths at the hands of the robots, but there are children, multiple instances of children being killed by these robots. It was really striking to me, and in a way that it made them stand out as like, okay, these are heartless machines. And I think that was a point they were maybe trying to sell by having them kill children now and then. These are heartless machines, and they are a major threat. I was really feeling that more than I would in your average movie of this type, where we've seen robots kill adults so many times. To have them kill children now and then was really like, oh my gosh. It added some emotional weight to the experience for me. Let's see here. It's there. It does go to some dark places, even beyond the deaths of some children. The way they handle deaths of characters, they give it some dramatic weight. There's a sense of tragedy to almost all of the deaths that occur, and it's not just an action fest. There are weighty, dramatic stakes and a good amount of suspense in this movie. An added element that's very significant is one robot going rogue. Early on, it's damaged in a way that uncaps the protocols that would normally keep its AI kind of limited, and so without those limitations, that kind of collar on it, it's allowed to learn and make its own decisions. And so they of course are going to explore in this movie AI, the nature of AI, the nature of human life and stuff like that, compared to what might be possible with artificial intelligence. But apart from those normal philosophical issues that you would expect doing something like that, it adds this element of, okay, it's not just these four robots going after these humans. There's three of them going after the humans, and there's one that kind of has its own agenda that is still scary. You know, it's not like the friendly robot, but it's got its own agenda going on. And so between the rogue robot, the regular robots, the Navy SEAL-led civilians, the corrupt military authorities running things behind the scenes, and the robotics devs being forced to cooperate underneath those military authorities. There are multiple players in this plot with their own agendas, their own motivations, their own concerns that are each engaging to track along with in their own way. Where the script lacked for me in dialogue and character development, it made up for with action and emotionally intense situations for all the different characters involved, wherever they were at in relationship to the story. So I found it engaging the entire time I was watching it. As far as the cast goes, mostly unfamiliar faces to me. It's a large cast of characters where the kind of like the dialogue, the screen time, if you will, is spread out quite a bit. The supporting roles, in particular, I want to say the group of doctors and that the Navy SEAL guy is protecting, seemed as actors maybe less experienced, or at the very least inconsistent in their performance for me. I felt that they the SEAL, the retired Navy SEAL, and the civilians were most convincing, thankfully for a movie like this, when under emotional duress. But came off artificial to me more often in those first 30 minutes of them just kind of being quote-unquote normal people. And then after that, just a few moments here and there during the rest of the movie where I was like, oh, that read kind of artificial to me. Some of that might have been the script as well. But anyway, it definitely, thankfully, was a different story for me after the first 30 minutes where I was like, oh, I'm not feeling these characters. The robotics devs that are working underneath the military authorities were cast by the more solid actors for my taste in this movie. David Haverty, I had to look up his name, stood out to me. He's a new face. I don't know if he's supposed to be autistic or not. There's a joke in there that if it's a joke and he's not autistic, then it's like, I don't know if that's a really good joke, to make. It could cause some offense among people. Because he's being compared or called autistic. I think maybe the weird thing is if you just look at the dialogue itself, I think he's supposed to be acutely autistic, but for whatever reason, the performance doesn't read as acutely autistic at all. So I'm not sure what that little exchange is about. In any case, that little moment aside and me scratching my head about it, David Haverty, as this character named Kroger, one of the key devs behind the scenes, stood out as especially strong and interesting to watch. So I would love to see him in more movies. Of all the cast, I would say that, let me see, where's my picture? Here we go. Neil Mcdonough, if I'm saying his name correctly. You've seen him in a bunch of stuff. He's like never the lead, but you've seen him in a bunch of stuff. He was, what's that guy with the really silly name that I can never take seriously in Captain America? Dum Dum Dugan. He played Dum Dum Dugan in Captain America: The First Avenger. So you have seen him in a bunch of stuff. Anyway, he was the most compelling cast member to me as the upper upper middle management military officer running this corrupt military operation. All of his scenes are separate from the rest of the cast. He's like talking to them over comms or a phone or whatever in a darkened room in the Pentagon. But over the phone and constantly cutting back and forth to him throughout the movie, he elevates the tension as this whole operation goes from wrong to bad to worse, and you see his intensity and stress levels. And it really adds a lot to the experience for me. As far as the stunts and visuals go, I'm almost positive this is an indie movie. I think, COVID aside, I don't think it would have been a big release in theaters in 2020. I watched it on Amazon Prime, and it might be available on other streaming services, but Amazon Prime Video, the rental was $3. So anyway, it was shot, whatever the case may be, in a very pretty polished looking style. It didn't look cheap in the way that it was shot, and it really elevated the performances. The editing and the shooting style elevated the performances, I thought. The robot visual effects are the standout feature in terms of what this movie looks like. Now, although my cursed eyes pick out a number of CG shots in movies that other people, just accept, and I did pick out a number of CG-looking robot shots, at least CG-looking to me in this movie, most of them felt almost indistinguishable from practical robots to my eye, with a realistic feeling, fast but jerky animation style to them that, we've never really had robots like this, but if we did, I would expect them to, military robots, I would expect them to move the way these robots did. And the details, the texture details, the lighting details on these CGI creations made me wonder a number of times if a practical robot was maybe being used in a shot here and there. And so I'm delighted to not be able to tell in a number of instances. I think we are within my lifetime maybe giving me robots that completely fool me for the entire movie. So that was really cool to see. In fact, I'll just go ahead and say this was probably the most realistic looking robots I've seen in a movie yet. So yeah, I really appreciated the work done on them here. As far as themes, is there anything of moral, philosophical, or spiritual significance going on in the themes of this thing that might trigger some worthwhile thought or conversation? Well, there are a few scenes involving Eastern religious practice, really just praying in fear and mourning in between moments of being on the run. But the standout theme, I think, is the AI treatment. There's one particular scene where it kind of comes to a head and stands out most strongly, where this robot that's kind of like becoming quote-unquote self-aware is having an exchange, a very intense exchange with the Navy SEAL, talking, kind of comparing what he is to the Navy SEAL. The Navy SEAL takes life in response to orders from those above it, just as this robot is taking lives in response to orders, and the Navy SEAL is trying to basically plead for the life of a boy that he's protecting, and is trying to reason with him, saying that life is valuable, life is important, and the robot asks, why is life valuable? Why is life important? And at this moment, the child speaks. And when a child speaks in this kind of moment, it's like, okay, this is the out of the mouths of babes. We're going to give this line to the most sympathetic character. This is what the director or the writer believes to be true, because we're going to have it come out of a voice that we can't possibly hate. And we're most likely to be sympathetic toward, right? So what does the child say? He says, because life is all around us. Without life, there is nothing. That's not really a good answer. If you notice, all that does is it says what is, not what ought to be. It says life is all around us. Okay, that doesn't mean it's valuable. Without life, there is nothing. The scarcity of life or the lack of existence of life does not make it valuable. All you can glean from that is that, life is all around us. Without life, there is nothing. It doesn't actually say why life should be preserved. There are lots of very rare things that we do not treasure and value on the same level as human life. So relativistic moral worldviews that deny objective moral values, like forms of Eastern religion, which was kind of the backdrop for this movie, if there was a religion present, and naturalism, atheism, also morally relativistic, those worldviews can only say what is, or declare very strong preferences. They cannot make the jump from is to ought. They cannot say what ought to be. They can say what is. They can say what is my strong preference. They can say what is the strong preference of the majority of people. But they cannot say that something objectively ought to be. Human life ought to be preserved and valued because humans are reflections of God, who is the ultimate objective reality. He is objectively the most valuable being, and humans are also deeply loved by the objectively highest, greatest, and most valuable being. And so it gives human beings as reflections and as those treasured by God objective value. Anyway, I have no idea what your tastes are in movies, but if I were a time traveler, I would go back in time and say, Peter, okay, rent this one on Amazon. It's only $3 right now, and then buy it at some point when it's cheap on Blu-ray. You're going to want this one in your collection, and then keep an eye on this director, Mark Toia, Toia. This appears to be his first film, but it seems like a great start for him. You would love to see more by him in the future, to see what he can do, maybe with a bigger budget and more resources in terms of performers and stuff. Inconsistent performance moments from the cast in this one, yes, but overall, this is like an indie gem. You're going to be glad you didn't miss. You can pretty safely say that it's one of your favorite movies of 2020. It doesn't have an MPAA rating. I would say that it's a rated R equivalent. Amazon rates it 16+, likely for language, action, violence, disturbing scenes, and gore. All right, those are my thoughts. I would love to get yours in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, click that bell to stay connected, help to spread this content around. Really appreciate any of those things that you might want to do. I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making this review possible. For more information about the benefits of becoming an insider, be sure to visit patreon.com/spiritblade productions. And then, of course, I hope you'll join us soon over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. The Christian Geek Central podcast is the longest-running podcast for Christian geeks with over 600 weekly episodes and counting, featuring audio versions of much of the same content you'll find here, plus exclusive content including weekly news updates from the creators of Christian comics, novels, and video games, debriefing and commentary about what I've been playing, reading, and watching, and my expanded responses to your comments and questions via YouTube, email, or the Christian Geek Central forums. And now, with timestamps, so you can jump straight to the segments you want to hear most. Get the Christian Geek Central podcast today on iTunes and other podcast services, and enjoy one more way you can geek out and seek the truth.